have this vivid memory of sitting in the bathtub one time and just crying.
I think I punched my dad once.
You're not in charge of me right now. Like, you just won't leave me alone.
I had an epidural in my back, so I couldn't move very well.
She just wanted me to keep pushing and keep going.
Everybody had one. Like, if you didn't have one, you were looked down upon.
This is a show where teenagers share their experiences growing up in today's world. I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and this is A Teen's Perspective. Hello, and welcome to A Teen's Perspective. I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and today I have a wonderful guest, and she's going to share a story with us that's going to give us insight into the amount of pressure that a teen faces. She was trying out for a dance team for the school, and this is a top dance team, not just anyone. This is a third in the nation top level dance team. So we're going to hear from her. But before I welcome her, we have to come up with a name. She is 14, so therefore I will not share her identity. So we need to come up with a really cool name so I can call you something. So if you were a superhero, what name would you want to be called?
Lady Legasus.
Lady Legasus? That is super cool. Now, that came out a little fast, like you've already have thought about this before.
Well, no, it came from a cartoon, but it's like, yeah, it came from a cartoon.
I like it. So let's welcome Lady Legasus to the show. All right. So before we jump into your tough week of trying out for this dance team, share with me a little bit about your upbringing, about your parents.
My parents are very involved in all of my social life, my academics, and dance life. They've always been very supportive. I love both my parents, and they help a lot. They contribute to a lot of the goals that I set for myself. So they help a lot. Even though if I don't achieve those goals, they're always proud of me, which is why it's really easy to be open with them. And I think that they're one of the people that I share most of my problems or anxieties to, because they keep everything confidential and they don't judge, and they're really helpful. So
that's awesome. And share with me the difference between your mom and dad. Like, who's the strict one, who's easygoing?
I would definitely say my dad is probably more of the strict one and the one that I don't mess around with. And my mom is definitely the one that I go to for girl on girl stuff, or new stuff that's happening at school. I tell my mom everything that happens, and she's always hearing me and my friends' conversations about new gossip or stuff that goes on at school. So that definitely contributes to all what my parents are here for. So
if you want something, who do you go to first?
My dad, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Explain that.
So if I say I want something, he has this phrase called "we'll see," which always means yes for me. So I'm just like, well, in a roundabout way, I want this, or I think I need this, and then I come up with something really long and persuasive that's like a bunch of hogwash, and then suddenly, well, I don't always get it, but sometimes I do, which is nice.
So are you the only child, or do you have siblings?
No, I actually have an older sister. She's in college right now.
Oh, okay. So how many years apart are you guys?
8.
Okay, so you're almost like an only child now, right? Because like she's out of the house.
No, she still lives here with us for right now, but she's always gone or with friends or like at school, so it kind of feels like an only child sometimes, but no, she's still here.
Describe you guys' relationship growing up.
Definitely, because she was an older sister, we didn't get along. I was still 5 when she was in 8th grade. So me wanting to play, she was always either doing teen stuff or too busy to hang out and stuff. But now I think our relationship is getting a little bit closer now because we moved a lot. So we've never been to the same school before, because 8 years is a long time before I go to the same school she used to go to. But now since I go to a high school that she used to go to, she can relate on a lot of topics and a lot of things that I struggle with. And she can relate to academics and a lot of teachers that I have now, she had then. So I think that it's a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, what did you remember from this teacher, or stuff like that. So I think that our relationship is getting a lot closer since she's kind of experiencing the same thing she's in college. And high schools, I mean, it's a lot different, but college is still kind of the same stress level rate, especially at the high school that I'm going to right now. So.
You mentioned that you guys moved a lot, so talk to me about that.
Growing up, my dad had a job for engineering, and he got a lot of promotions, or we got moved all over the country. So we started out in Oregon, then we moved to Texas for 5 or 6 years, and then we moved to New York for another job, and that was 2 years, and then now we just moved back. And I went to elementary school, and she was in high school, so that was a huge gap already. And then she went off to college, and I was finally in 6th grade, and then we've stayed here for a while, so I've been here since 4th grade. And yeah, so this is the longest time we've stayed in one part as a family. So
you actually remember a lot of the moves?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember the one from Oregon to Texas because I was only 1 year old, so I don't remember that one. But I do remember the one from New York and the one back.
Now, to make a big move like that, what were some of your emotions, thoughts about that?
I was only a little kid, so it didn't really affect me.
Just going along with the flow, huh?
Yeah, I thought that it was fun because I made a wish when I was 6 that I wanted to live in New York or spend my 6th birthday in New York, or my 7th birthday in New York. So when we heard out that we were moving to New York, it was really fun. And I was really excited. And then I missed Texas, and then we moved back. So it kind of all went well with me. But I don't know about my sister because I know she was in middle school and then high school, so it was definitely a hard transition.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have this relationship with your mom where you can pretty much tell her anything. When did this develop?
Probably 6th grade. 6th grade is when I really needed it. It seems like a low year, but it all starts in like 5th grade, 6th grade. Those are like the times that I think parents need to start focusing on more, because the stresses with middle school has gone a lot harder. Especially I have friends who have been in mental breakdowns, and it's when people try to impress everyone else, and it's when people everything just becomes more competitive with each other. Everyone tries to think that they're better than everyone. And I think that that's one of the times that parents need to really start being there for their child.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Middle school has been identified as the toughest transition any student has to go through. There's a lot of reasons for that. You're getting more independence, you're becoming older and more mature. Some are going through puberty. It's just very different, and it's very tough. So I'm glad you actually brought that up. So share with us some of the challenges you face personally transitioning into middle school.
In middle school, I had a hard time trying to find a lot of friends who were real. There's a lot of people in life who are fake friends, and a lot of people who have stabbed me in the back before or tried to tell other people a lot of rumors or stuff that weren't true. And that was one of the things where I have probably had 5 different friend groups that I've switched with in my whole middle school. I started out with another group of friends. I left them for other friends, and then it's an ongoing cycle until I have my friends now who are amazing. But the difference between I think middle school and high school is people try to act older than they are. And for me, for instance, I had a lot of friends who were already like dating in 5th grade, and they took relationships seriously as if you're in a high school relationship. And I wasn't for that, so I didn't date anyone. I had a lot of my friends who would always be in relationships or something, and I'm like, you're in middle school. What are you doing?
So is that where you started transitioning friend groups? It's because one group was really into boys and or dating, and then you were not into that, so then you went to another group.
Yeah, that, and I couldn't find a group that was for me. I had groups of friends who I thought were for me, but they didn't do anything. All they did was use me for answers, or they hung out more with each other than they did with me, and I just felt like a third wheel to their friendship.
That's actually pretty common. Explain to me, how does that happen? It's like you meet a group of girls that are already friends first, or do you guys just become friends at one time and they just pick their favorites? Like, how does that work?
So because I moved here later, they had already been friends, and I had been nice to them because I had some classes with them. And so she would introduce me to her friends, and then we'd all hang out together, or I'd meet one of them and they'd introduce me to their friends. And this is how I met a lot of my friend groups, through people. Or I tried starting my own friend groups, saying, hey, why don't we have a sleepover or something, and why don't we hang out together so that we could become like closer and have a better bond for school.
Oh, so that's how some friends are started. You just really go up to someone and say, hey, let's have a sleepover?
No. It's something that I've met all of my friends through school, so I had projects with them, and I would try to become friends with them by being partners with them or saying, hey, I really like your outfit. And then next thing you know, we start talking, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're friends now. And then we hang out. And that's how I've started all my friendships.
Got it. Now, the ones that did not turn out so well, the ones that stabbed you in the back, like, if you remember, share with me a story about that. So
I had a group of friends where it was me, another girl, and another girl. So it was just the three of us. And I would tell my secrets or my life or what was on my mind to one of my friends who I thought that she was... Here, I'll give her like a name.
Okay.
So I'll call her like Emma, and I'll call the other one Avery. I used to talk to Emma all the time, and I would tell her all about my life, and I would say, you know, I've just really been liking this one guy or something like that. And I was only in 6th grade, so it wasn't like major. And then I would say, you know, I think that Avery has been like dissing me. I don't think that we've been friends lately. Do you know what's going on with Avery? And Emma would always be like, oh no, she loves you and all this stuff. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's great. And then Emma would go behind my back and tell Avery, and she'd be like, oh yeah, did you hear all the nasty things that I had said about her and all this stuff? And this just caused conflict between all of us, and I was done with it, and I was done being like the third wheel to their little gossip starting party, and I left them for another group of friends in my 7th grade year.
So how do you break up with a group of friends? Do you like text them and say, hey, it's over? Or like, how does that work?
For me, I just stopped hanging out with them, and just... if you just ignore their friendship group when you're not even really a part of it, they don't care.
Oh, okay, so it kind of fades out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, so you brought up dating. So what have you noticed as a big change from middle school dating to now that you're a freshman in high school?
Everyone, like I said, everyone in middle school tries to be a high schooler. Middle school was probably the biggest mind blower because the amount of things people have done in middle school is just really, I don't know. But in middle school, at least at my school, I've had friends who have already been sleeping with their boyfriends.
In middle school?
In 7th grade, yeah.
Wow.
And people who have gotten drunk or tried getting high with their boyfriends because they thought that it was cool, versus now the amount of sophomores, there's like no virgins left.
That is a shame. So it seems like in middle school, the parents are like really, really involved. You don't have as much freedom. So how are they getting away with this type of things, or how are they able to have the time to do all this?
I have no idea. I'm not really friends with those people, but I had a friend in 6th grade who I'm not friends with now, but she did that, and I'm really glad that I'm not friends with her. But for that information, I think they hang out. A lot of parents are very lenient on having boys and girls hang out at like sleepovers and stuff. And there's a group of girls at my school and a group of guys that always have sleepovers at their parents' houses, and their parents allow it, and I guess that's one. But parents are really oblivious to these things because they're like, oh, they're only middle schoolers. They don't know about this stuff and all that stuff, but they're wrong.
I think you're right on that. As far as the parents were in middle school, it wasn't that accessible, and it was almost a big taboo to even talk about it when your parents are in middle school. So nowadays, internet, and it's so much knowledge out there, so it makes sense. You mentioned drinking alcohol. So you said that you've noticed that even in middle school?
Yeah, a lot of people, even just going to the pool, you would see people on the basketball court, like people that went to my school, they would be drinking or they'd be vaping, and they take a big part of their childhood out just by doing that. And a lot of parents don't even know about that because they don't know that they can get a hold of mommy daddy's liquor, or they can get a hold of Jules, and they think that, oh yeah, my kid's not going to do that, but they do. And it's one of the ones that you least expect it. And drugs are a huge part of high school right now. There's a lot of friendships and breakups that people are going through, and the amount of drugs that people are on to make themselves feel better, or antidepressants that they're taking because of stresses of high school, is really bad. And they think that it's good for them, but they don't have a parent to tell them that, because they can't, if they're not open with their parent won't know, and they'll think that, oh, it's the best for me, but they can't, their parent can't tell them, oh yeah, you shouldn't be doing that.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that there's drugs, there's alcohol, and you're guessing that it has to do a lot with just the pressure of high school and middle school?
Yeah, but especially at my school, for instance, our academics are very high and our expectations are very high. So people are staying up very late to study, so they take drugs to help them stay awake in order to study, and then they take drugs to go to sleep when they need to, and then when they wake up they take drugs so that they're happy and nice at school. And it's affecting everyone that you talk to is just off. You can't have a single straight conversation with anyone that's probably in junior or senior year, because it's just so intense, especially with colleges. And we have midterms coming up, so I can't imagine how many people are overdosing or drinking right now because of stress.
So how have you been able to limit the amount of stress when it comes to academics?
Dance has been one of the reasons why I love it, is because once you're in there, it kind of frees your mind. And I think that it's important for parents to have their kid enrolled in something, whether it's tennis or maybe it's a hobby like art. Try to get your teen to open up about what they like. Enroll your student in that, because it's important to have something outside of school that they can look forward to, because it can help relieve stress, which I need breathers when I'm studying. So dance during the day is really nice because I get a break between academics and I just get to forget about all of it until we have to go back to it. But it's nice because it kind of clears my head a little bit.
Before we discuss, I would say, your process for this tryout for dance, I'm curious to know about your parents' involvement as far as academics. What are their expectations for you?
So in my household, expectations are A's and B's. That's always been the expectation. I have recently had a hard time fulfilling that because of this one class I'm taking. It's an AP Human Geo class, and that's very hard. And I've probably gotten a C in that class a lot of times. But right now I have all A's and B's, so that's good. But my expectations for myself have definitely higher just from being at the school, just from being at high school. Like A's and B's, it's just not cutting it anymore. I need all A's. But my parents' involvement with all my academics is they would be the ones who would stay up late to help with homework or help me when I would cry or stay up really, really late because I'd be stressed on an assignment. They've always helped me with that. And they always let me know that they're proud of me no matter what. If I don't reach my goals, if I don't reach all A's and B's, or if I'm not doing well in a class, they won't disown me, but they'll just be like, hey, what do we need to do to help you? Which that's exactly what my parents say all the time. They're like, how can I help you? And a lot of the times I want help, but it's just something they can't help with because it's a curricular so advanced that it's just not right to explain it. And most of the times I know what I'm doing, I just need to think about it. But when my parents ask if they could help me, it's something that they can't help with because sometimes, like for instance, math or something, my dad is really good at math, but sometimes he just can't help me with it. But I can't tell him, oh, it's nothing you can help me with. I have to let him try it. But it's really annoying to watch him try to figure out this one math problem when I finally figure it out. And he's like, no, I'm going to try to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, you just wasted another 30 minutes. I need to figure this out myself. And that's kind of my relationship with my parents. They're always trying to help, which is great for high school. And I think that a lot of parents, they need to understand that expectations for high school are a lot higher now, especially with the acceptance rates at colleges are going lower. So high schoolers need to step it up. And I think a lot of their parents either need to push students more, because I think that there's a lot of students who don't even need to go to college or don't even want to go to college, and their parents just don't care. They need to be more involved and they need to push their students more, because if they don't, their student might not success in the world like others do. Even though every student, I think, has potential, no matter how bad grades are, everyone has potential to get better. And I think that a lot of parents have high expectations for their students, and they think that, oh, if you don't get A+ on every single test, we're going to be disappointed in you. And I hear a lot of those stories where kids are like, oh, I only got a 90. And I'm over here like, I got a 90. I'm really happy with it because that's good for me. And they're like, I got a 90. My mom's going to be so mad. I need to get better grades. I've been failing lately. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You just got a 95 on the last test. What do you mean failing? My idea of failing is like 60s. Their idea of failing is like 95 and below.
Wow. So what would happen if you did fail? How would your parents react to that?
They probably wouldn't be happy. They would probably ask me what happened. How could you retake it? How can you bring it up? Which is something that I would They haven't set that for me. I've set that for myself. They've set that failing is not acceptable. There's a reason why you fail, and it's because you didn't study hard enough or you were lazy in that curricular, and there's no tolerance for that. So if there's any way you could make it up, you should do it.
So what would be the type of discipline that you would receive if you were to like come home with a C or even failing grade?
It wouldn't be anything harsh. It would probably be a talk about like a lecture about why it happened, how can I make it up. They would go through our Google Classroom and they'd say, okay, look, there's another assignment that's going to be posted. Is this the last assignment of the grade book? Can you bring it up? Is there extra credit? Can you talk to your teacher? Can you somehow make it a little bit higher? There's no real discipline. You're grounded. It's not to the point where it flies. It doesn't fly because we don't want to have D averages, but it's not to the point where it gets so bad that they're really disappointed.
Would it ever be a situation where they would take you out of dance because of curricular?
Yes. So I have had a lot of downfalls in my curriculars, especially in middle school where I had dance on the line. And if I didn't pull up my grades, they would drop dance because dance, for me, I dance a lot after school. It would be like 10 to 12 hours a week, not every day, but every week, Monday through Thursday. And so academics were very low priority to me. And that really affected the way my middle school academics went my 7th grade year. And 8th grade year, I didn't take as much dance, and my grades were really good. I had all A's, and I was making 100 on tests. And so I think that now I'm not taking any dance outside of school right now. It's only in school. But I think that now my grades are getting better, especially with all the hard classes that I'm taking. And the transition from middle school academics to high school academics is huge. It's a big transition. And I think that dance hasn't gotten in the way, but it's I've had to skip a lot of nights of dance because I had to stay up late for a certain class or homework. And I think that it's not something you should drop out of, but probably reschedule or try tutoring on the weekends instead. And I didn't spread out my schedule a lot. I had it all on certain days and it would all pile up. And so it was very stressful in the beginning of the year.
I think this is the perfect time to talk about your experience trying out for this top dance team. Don't tell us yet if you made it or not. We'll save that until after you tell us a story, but walk us through the entire week.
So it starts off with crying because the fact that, one, I'm even trying out for this is just impeccable. And two, this year I have been since 6th grade, I have been anticipating this moment that just happened. And I couldn't imagine that it was right here. So day one was very stressful. My director tried everything she could to try to calm us down, but adrenaline and nerves were just shooting through the roof, and everyone was really scared. You could feel it. Everyone was really scared.
And what is your parents telling you at this time?
They would say that they were proud of me. They would say that they would be proud of me no matter what, if I made it or if I didn't make it, that it's okay. It's my dream. It's not a dream of my parents. They're just there to support me for what I wanted to do. And it definitely helped this whole week. But day one was us learning the routine. We learned the dance routine. We practiced it. This was probably 2.5 hours after the school day started. And it was very intense. I got a lot of bruises and cuts and blisters, and I had to take ice and Epsom salt baths because of all the pain. It felt awful. And all the preparations there was a week in the summer that I prepped for this special moment, and I couldn't walk for a week because I was just so sore from kicking every single day, 2 to 3 hours, and dancing and stretching, and then we had Pilates, and it was so intense that I couldn't walk for a week. And this whole tryout process brought it back, all the PTSD from the summer. So it was very intense. Day 2, we finished the routine, we practiced it. Day 3, we had a mock audition where we had all the previous seniors who were on the team. They told us good luck, and if they hadn't done that for my school, I would have been left in dismay because their positive words meant a lot. And I think that the littlest things, it helped so much.
Really? So just the seniors saying good luck and you'll do well and hang in there, that helped a lot?
Yeah, we got a sheet of paper and they decorated it saying, "Oh, you're so pretty and you did really well on this. I really like your style." And all this, just because of all the stress, I was just like, I'm not good enough. And all that just helped tremendously, because if they wouldn't have said that, I don't know if I would have believed in myself enough. But those words, I had just been feeling so down that just the littlest thing helped me throughout the whole week.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then tryout day was probably the most intense day ever. Walking into like a big room and seeing all the judges staring at you, is your heart just sinks to your stomach. And we had a long time where we had to do jumps, leaps, and all that stuff in one single, I guess, session. And my endurance level had gone really high just based on this whole week. And so the endurance to complete all the dances and all the moves and still keep a smile on my face was only based because of adrenaline. And I think that this week a lot of girls did really well, and everyone who tried out for this, I think that a lot were left in disappointment and a lot were left in excitement, and it was a really tough week, especially trying to balance academics with that. That was probably my lowest week for academics, especially because the whole night I couldn't study. All I could do was review the dance, practice. Academics was just gone. So that was probably not my brightest week for school and not my highest test scores.
That makes sense. So how difficult was it to fall asleep?
I take melatonin every night so I could have a nice rest. So it wasn't that bad, but I was already super exhausted. But the day right before audition, I took a melatonin and I could not sleep. Like, I was so excited and scared.
So leading up to discovering if you made the team or not, how are you feeling about your chances?
After completing it, I felt really good. But the more that I slept on it, the more that I reviewed it over and over and over in my head, the more I was like, no, I'm not going to make it. No. And then I thought of every single little critique, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I forgot to smile throughout the whole dance. And I was like, oh no, I think I forgot to do this and this and this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's okay. All my friends will make it. I'll be alone. It's great. That was my thought process. And just anticipating it, my test grades were still not doing well because I didn't find out my results until a Saturday, 2 days after the audition, and we still had school. And all my brain was focused on was that 24/7.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so walk us through the moments leading up to the decision when they shared the news.
So we were we were at home, and they were going to post it online at 9 a.m. And I wanted to watch a movie that would take my mind off of it, that would like bring me into the movie, because I didn't want to think about this the whole morning. I woke up at 5:45 on my own, not on an alarm. I just woke up and I was like, all right, I'm ready. Refreshing the page over and over and over again, because I was like, so my tryout number was 44. So I was like, if I don't see 44, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. But I was like, I better see 44 or else it's over for me. So we watched this movie called The Shallows. It's a shark movie. And this just happened to be the one movie where there's commercials within every single, felt like 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, there was like a 10-minute commercial. And so the thought of me trying to keep my mind from this, every commercial, I'd be whipping out my phone, I'd be refreshing the page, and I'd be like, all right, are the tryouts posted? So it was very stressful, and my whole weekend happiness was based off of this one moment.
So the question, did you make the team?
Yes, I did.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So as soon as you found out that number 44 was on the list, what did you do?
I cried a little bit. I remember my mom was like, pause the TV, quick, they're posted. And I just remember her screaming in joy because she was jumping up and down, because she was like, she made the team. And everyone was so happy. We gave each other hugs. And then the first thing that was the first thing, but the second thing I could think of was, did my friends make it? So I had this list of everyone's number, and I was like trying to go through, and I was like, okay, she made it. She didn't make it. Oh no. And it was probably the best happiness I had felt in a long time, because this was one of the stresses that have been bringing me down for the past couple years. I've been thinking about this moment, and it brought not depression, but it brought a lot of sadness towards me, thinking about what would happen if I didn't make it. And the fact that my mood has definitely changed throughout the summer because of stress and thinking about or seeing the dance team perform is just, it reminds me, what if I didn't make it? And I really want this. But that moment just like took a whole builder of rocks that just came off me. And I was like, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And this whole process, I know that it wouldn't have been my results if it weren't for God, because this process, I walked in and the first thing I did was pray with my friends. And we thanked Jesus for everything. And if I wouldn't have been talking to him throughout the whole audition process, I would have been lost. And yeah, so that was my process.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Now, you mentioned that dance is like your stress reliever, right? Mm-hmm. But what do you do whenever you're stressed about dance?
That's a tough one. I don't do anything. I'm just thinking about that. If I'm stressed about dance, that's probably the only thing I stress about. I put everything else out of my way, and I'm like, okay, I need to focus on this one thing. That, like, this past week, I have been so stressed for dance, and academics just went out the door just because of this 1 week. And if I'm stressed, there's nothing that can help it. I was panicked the whole week. I couldn't think about anything. So I think my plan B, that was dance. It just went out the door, and I had no plan C. So I was just left, and my brain was scatterbrained. I didn't know what to do.
Well, I'm glad you made it. So is dance something you really want to pursue even in college or after school?
Yeah, I definitely want to go to a college that would have a good dance team and a college that could fit my academic requirements for biology and biomed, which is what I want to go into. And I think that if I could find a college that has both, that would be like the ideal college for me.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story. But before I let you go, what advice or what words of encouragement could you share for someone who either did not make the dance team or even something else that's important to them as a high schooler?
I think that if you have a goal that you want to work for and you didn't make it, I've been there and I haven't made my goal a lot of times. And this was the one time, the one thing that I truly wanted. And if you want it so bad, you will do anything in your power to pursue that goal. And for those who didn't make their dance team or didn't get a goal that they reached, I think that for me, I think that it's God's way of saying that there's something else that is better for you. I think that if you didn't want something so bad, there's something that this is just a part of your life that you're just going to have to let go, because I don't want to say that it didn't matter, but there's something that's better in your world for you. There's something that was made for you, and this might just not be it. Or if you want it, you can get it if you push hard enough. And for people who are going through stresses through high school, it's high school. It's only 4 years. It goes by really fast. And I think that parents need to have a bigger mindset and a more open mind for students who are going through this. And I think that students just need to take a deep breath every once in a while and just think that it'll all be over soon, and they just need to hang on a few more years. But everyone needs to push for everything, and if they want something, they can get it.
When it comes to teenagers, coaching is so effective because we use proven techniques that help teens identify goals and develop actionable plans to achieve them. If you're a parent and you want to learn how to use these coaching techniques to coach your own teen, visit us at coachyourteen.com. Lady Legasus mentioned that some of her friends were having sleepovers, and it was just not girls, but it was also boys. So parents, I would love to hear your thoughts about that. Would you allow your daughter to have a sleepover and invite boys? Would you allow your son to have a sleepover when you know that girls will be there? So make sure you join our Facebook group. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. You can find us by searching A Teen's Perspective. So how do you get this relationship with your teen where your teen basically tells you everything? Seems like most parents would want that relationship. There's a lot of advantages to having a relationship like that. One would be that you wouldn't have to worry as much about your teen if you know they're going to tell you everything. Also, it can decrease the amount of stress you have when they're out with their friends. You know they're going to tell you everything that happened when they get back home. So there are a lot of advantages to that. So what I want to share with you from a coaching standpoint is 3 tips to foster a relationship where your teenagers will share everything with you. So the first tip is you should be open about your past. I believe if your teen hears you talk about some of the mistakes you've made, then they start to see you as not this perfect mom or dad. They start to see you as someone who is basically just like them. It can open the door for them to start sharing with you some of their mistakes or some of the things that they're going through when they know that you most likely went through them as well. Another tip would be to show genuine interest in what is going on in their life. Now, I'm not just talking about the bigger things like school, sports, but I mean even the little things, even the annoying things like the teenage drama. If they are open enough to share with you about anything that's going, Number one, you're doing something right as a parent because a lot of teens don't even talk to their parents. So good job if they're sharing something about their life with you. But if it seemed petty, listen, show interest, ask questions. Because when you do that, they'll be more open to sharing more things, more severe things, more important things with you. So when they start to share with you the teenage drama about this person dating that person, be genuinely interested in it. Ask questions about what's going on and how they feel about that. Because like I said, it definitely will make it easier for them to share other things. And the final tip I can share with you is to improve your reactions to things, especially when it comes to losing your temper. If they know that you're going to explode about something, most likely they will not share that. For some teens, they do not want to disappoint their parents. It actually hurts them when they know their parents are disappointed. So if you can control your reaction, not really yell or automatically scream no when they ask you something, but be more open-minded and more patient with your response, then they may ask you before they do something, or they may tell you something they did and feel more comfortable sharing that with you. So I hope that helps. Until next time, I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and this is A Teen's Perspective. Well, I hope this interview will help in some way with the relationship between you and your teen. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much for all your support. Please review, rate, and subscribe, and share with a friend. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. RJ, and this is A Teen's Perspective. Let's go!